Thank you very much. First of all, I want to make one correction. I'm no longer the Secretary General in the Ministry of Interior. I used to be the Secretary General, the equivalent of the Permanent Secretary. But now I'm here as an ambassador, so I can't have two jobs at the same time. Yeah, I want to, never mind. I want to speak for a few minutes and talk about generally and share with you my views about the whole of this issue. As somebody who's coming from Rwanda and with the experience of a genocide that passed through, so I will really want you to ask questions, and then I ask them. You all are aware that in 11 years ago actually, there was a genocide in Rwanda, and now, 11 years after, it seems to me that the international community has not learned any lessons at all. The fact that we have witnessed more of these horrendous crimes against humanity since then, you will remember Kosovo, East Timor, DRC, Liberia, Ivory Coast, Darfur, and many other places. Of course, Darfur is now, which is in the limelight, but there are so many other places. So this shows one thing, that there must be something wrong in our international mechanisms for response. And this is a very big concern to all of us, and I'm sure you as students, it must be confusing you so much. It is actually important to note that in all of these crises, there are some commonalities, there are parallels you can draw with the Rwandan situation. I could see, for example, that in all these cases, it's not a question of warning signs. Everything is very clear, crystal clear, that there is an impending threat or there is something happening at this particular time. But nobody heeds about all these things. Two, that there is always confusion. There is no unanimity in all of these cases from the international community whatsoever. There is no unanimity about this on what should be done. There is always confusion. People are pointing the fingers, others are hiding away from it. So there is no unanimity anywhere. And three, even when an action is agreed upon, this action is uncoordinated, it's confused, it's inadequate, it's delayed, and more often than not, it is eroded with competing political interests of those contributing to this action. No wonder, therefore, that the set objectives for this action are never met, and therefore, chaos and chaos and chaos. There is a lack of sustainability in this. Even when there is an action that has got all those characteristics, whenever there is seemingly quiet because something has stopped a little bit, there is withdrawal of all the support, and then we go back to square one. There is no sustainability in any mechanism that we may have. So all these, if you look at any of these crises, you will find all these commonalities. So who is responsible to protect and prevent this problem, the genocide? Everybody agrees that there is a problem and something must be done. You have heard never, never again, never, never and again. It is now a rhetoric, and sometimes, to me, if I may use this word, it's nauseating. It is never again, nothing. Everybody agrees. But who is responsible for protecting this one? Characteristically, when a genocide happens or any crimes against humanity happens in any country, usually that country is either has failed to help to protect people or is complicit in those problems, like the case was in Rwanda. So for anybody to say this country has to be responsible and protect people when it is complicit, that country no longer is responsible for protecting its people or people in problems. Therefore, the responsibility remains to us, the members of the international community. It is our responsibility to help protect people who are in problems. I talk about the international community, but if you ask me what the international community is, I will have no answer. Because I don't touch this man called the international community. I don't know where he is. So this is a problem. But all of us, members of the international community, we have an obligation to stop, first and foremost, to stop people who are in danger. And then we can do other things afterwards, when at least people are safe. I'm talking about this because I know in Rwanda, if at least people were not being killed and were protected, then you could have thought of other things. I mean, urgent things first. And then we could have time to talk about, justice, where should we locate the tribunal? Should it be in Europe? Should it be in Arusha? What should we do? This kind of thing should come when at least people are safe. But of course, there is no mechanism in this. Why? Because it's not lack of information. Information is available, it's abundant. It is lack of political will. Something called political lacks everywhere in these problems. So what needs to be done there? I think we need to rethink the concept of national interest vis-a-vis global interest. Is there such a thing like global interest? Should Americans say Rwandans are our interest because they are dying? Should we assume that global interests are there, so there is somebody who is going to cater for the global interest? Or we are all still looking at within our borders national interest? And to me, it seems I find it that there is not yet that scenario, that situation where we say there is a global interest. We all still thinking it is us here and they are them. Those are the other people. No, there is no global interest yet. So we need to rethink about these things. We need to come out of those days of West Aparia, of state, and look beyond, and seriously look beyond this. The concept of sovereignty must be thought, because if people are targeted and are dying, should we people say, oh, these are national interests, these are national boundaries? Should we still think like that? So it's a debate, and I don't think we are there. We need to form the only existing international mechanism, and that's the UN. The UN should be more representative. Why should it be dominated by 5 countries? Why? And it should be delegative. Why should everything come to be done at the UN here? It should, some other African Union, NATO, and these other groups should also participate and be given the responsibilities. And it must be made more effective. You need to have a crisis somewhere, and you see confusion. We in Rwanda, in 1994, there was confusion around. So many things happened. And certainly we need to have domestic agenda in our national country. We really need to rethink the way we look at issues of impunity, injustice, how we restore harmony, how we fight poverty, and ignorance. All these are circumstances that bring about all the things. And the international community should be there to consolidate stability within those local entities. If you have a house that has got some bricks which are very weak, the house will not be strong. We should think about global, but we need to look at each individual components of this global. They have to be strong. So national interests say, for us we are looking at America, we are looking at Europe. Strengthen also those local entities, wherever they are. And then because they are part of you, they go global. For example, why should we have these poor countries having this huge debt burden? The international community should write off all those debts, and of course ask these poor countries to behave. That way, they can also help, to strengthen their local constituencies.